Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon Review for this morning's Newcastle United news with myself, Paul. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. As usual, if you do enjoy the show, please do hit that like button for us. And of course, if you're new and you like what you see, why not subscribe? It is free to do so, even if you're watching this on the rerun. It is, I can say, free to do so, but don't forget to hit the bell, which will let you know when we upload any videos or we go live. You can, of course, become a member of the Toon Review by hitting that join button underneath myself. And of course, if you feel like doing so, you can super chat the channel by the $ at the bottom of the live comments, and that will guarantee your comment to be read out on the show. Just a couple of things to go through this morning. It seems like Mr. Howe is finally shown a bit of a ruthless streak when it comes to his players. The latest player to be linked with a move away from Newcastle United is Miggy Almiron. Now, we did have a feeling that this would happen at some point. His agent has made it quite clear that Miggy doesn't want to go anywhere, but that's not going to happen. I think Newcastle United do want him out the door, so to speak. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but they do want to move him on in order to bring in another right-sided player, which, of course, could be Elise, could be Madueke, it could be, it could be anybody at this stage. Rich, thank you for signing up to the membership. Welcome to the family, my friend. Thank you for your support. Pedro says, according to iNews, Madueke is on the radar at Newcastle as they look to potentially replace Miggy Almiron. Shane out there in Australia, good evening. I honestly don't care where Miggy goes, just needs to leave and be absolutely upgraded. Actually excited about the prospect of Elise. Well, you know, those stories haven't gone away. The Elise stories are still there for everybody to hear and listen to. I find it quite exciting. I said this on last night's live show. I think even if we don't get him, but just to be in the conversation now with these kind of players is absolutely fantastic. And I think, you know, generally, if we've made an approach, we are very, very serious about things. So from my point of view as a fan, I think Miggy is now, his time is limited as a Newcastle United player. I know Miggy does have still a lot of fans within the fan base at Newcastle United. And look, you know, everybody knows that, you know, I was very critical of Miggy last season, and for obvious reasons. He didn't really create anything. He didn't score any goals. He had a decent season in the Champions League, fourth place finish. I think he was quite good. He went on a goal scoring run there. You know, we've got to thank him for his service to Newcastle United. Obviously, he's been a decent player over the time, but not that elite player that we need. And I think some fans have a very sentimental view about things when it comes to, you know, letting players go, and they want to hang on to them because they've done a reasonably good job in the time that they've been with the club. But right now, the way it stands, we do need to upgrade that right-hand side. There is no doubt about that. I think Jacob Murphy will stay on at the club in a squad role capacity, absolutely. But we need that elite player on the right-hand side just to complete the front three. Of course, Anthony Gordon on the left, Isak through the middle. We will probably bring in another striker. And then, of course, a right-sided player. Pedro says, former Newcastle United Dan Gosling has signed for Westfield. I've seen that, yeah. Astonishing, really. 11th tier of the Football League. But he is on the, you know, very much the back end of his career now. Miggy this past season ended things between him and the club. Was it away to Wolves when he decided to shoot from 40 yards with trips on the overlap? Trips went batshit crazy and that he didn't pass. Yeah, I think, look, Miggy Almiron's body language didn't really change, but I think there was frustration creeping in a lot of the time with maybe his colleagues. There was a lot of frustration that he wasn't passing when he should have. He wasn't creating the opportunities that he should have. There was times last season when he had an opportunity to pass the ball. And of course, you know, the one that still grinds on me the most is that miss against Milan in the Champions League, when all it needed was a right foot just to tap it in the back of the net. And of course, he let it roll across him to try and put it in on his left foot, and he was tackled. That could have changed the game. It could have sealed points for us where we would still be in Europe. But you look at things like that and you think, you know, what would an elite quality player do in that circumstances? Even if he wasn't right-footed, he would still put it in on his right foot. Let's be honest. And the amount of times that we've seen that with Miggy in the past. But I think an out-and-out right-sided player is needed. I know Eddie likes his is sort of, left footer on the right, etc. But I think he's going to go with a right-sided player, a dedicated right-sided player. And certainly Elise is that. Madueke is that as well. So is Minte, to be honest. So, Minte is a very talented player, and we can't rule him out as well, because I genuinely think Newcastle United are going to look at Minte in the summer. And that excites me, because I think he could be another addition to the squad. I'm not saying Minte is going to come straight in pre-season, thrill everybody and be the number one selection for the right side. I think we are going to sign a marquee player. I agree with what Billy said last night with signing a marquee player on the right-hand side. I think that is a position where we are, going to spend a lot of money. Army to say, Paul, just want to say, anyone else worried that we're only targeting English players, what we all feared before the season ended? No, it doesn't worry me at all, Hamid, because the English players that we're linked with are quality. And you know what? If it's the first day of the window today, right? It's the first actual official day of the window being open. So we don't know who Newcastle United are targeted. We don't know who they've been to look at or scouted. It could be that Newcastle United have a couple of players in Europe or across the world lined up. They may be looking at players in the Euros. They may be looking at players in the Copa America. So I wouldn't panic just yet that we're just going for English players. But I think Eddie wants to set a base. He wants to give English players a chance. And, I'm not going to complain about that right now. Let's see how next season goes. If he does bring in majority of English players, let's just see how it goes. We've got a new member, Darren, the handmade angler. I think that's a renewal, but welcome back to the members club, my friend. And thank you for your support. Kev says 100% the right time for him to go. His agent should be protecting his best interests, and that isn't Newcastle now. I think deep down, I really do think deep down that his agent realizes that his time has come to an end. And I would not be surprised at all if his agent was looking at other clubs and trying to negotiate some moves at least a couple of months ago. Because, I mean, look, Miggy might have had a conversation with Newcastle United already. But obviously his agent is trying to just make sure that, Miggy's best attributes are to go to another club and perform, whether he goes back to the MLS or whether he goes to back home or whether he stays in Europe. I'd wish him well wherever he goes. JT Toon says, I've heard that Elise's release clause is only for Champions League clubs. Is there any truth in this, do you know? If so, it's an absolute disgrace, as Chelsea, surprise, surprise, are in talks apparently. I don't think it is, mate. I think that was just a rumour made from some various fan accounts to try and put the cat among the pigeons. As far as I'm concerned, and as far as most of the media have reported, they've talked about Newcastle meeting the release clause, and that's why they've approached Crystal Palace. I don't think they would have approached them if that was the case. I just think it's people trying to stir the shit up a little bit, to be honest. Baz Down Under, good evening to you. Anyone but Miggy these days, his time is up. Most of us can accept that. Yeah. Elise is unlikely to choose us as he's a Man U fan, but we can always hope. Well, we spoke about that last night. With regards to Manchester United, they're not in a great financial position. I'm not saying that they can't go out and afford to buy some players, but if you look at the recent history with Manchester United and the way that certainly Ineos have directed things with Ratcliffe, trying to find a new manager behind Ten Hag's back, then telling the new manager that they can't, the wages are really structured. They can't afford certain wages. They can't afford certain transfers. And no manager wanted to come. That, to me, tells a big, big story. I know that some Man United channels are saying, oh, yeah, we're happy that Ten Hag staying, etc. Fair enough. Fair enough. I think Ten Hag's treatment was terrible. But I don't really care about Manchester United. I wish Miggy all the best, wherever he goes to, says Roger. He's simply not good enough for us. Susan, good morning. Hi, Trevor. Love your show. Struggling with the C word at the moment. You cheer me up. Well, it's not Trevor, Susan. It's Paul. I don't know where you've got Trevor from, unless that's a new name for me. But thank you very much for watching. And listen, there's a lot of people out there battling with the C word. And, we wish everybody the very, very best. Keep fighting, keep your head up, and keep battling. We're all there for every single one of you. There is some disappointing news that I heard in one of the comments on one of the shows. John Bruce, who was a long-time viewer of the channel, sadly passed away. So we've lost another member of the Toon Review Army. So very, very sad news. So love and condolences to his wife and his friends and family, of course. Very sad time, but we're all here for you. Rich says, I'm quite surprised how many fans want him to stay. Times have changed and we want to challenge, and Miggy is too one-dimensional. I'm sure he's a lovely guy and all, but football is football. Yeah, look, we know how football is a cutthroat business, and sentimentality has gone now. You very rarely see players staying at clubs for a very, very long stretch of time. Everybody, I think all players want to move on and do better for themselves. Just like, Lloyd Kelly's moved from Bournemouth, now he's come to Newcastle. But there's also the other end of the scale where players have come to the end of their time at a football club. And it's a natural progression, a natural turnover. No matter what we think of Miggy, whether he's, you think he's good enough or he's not good enough, his time is at an end. No doubt about it. Alexander, good morning to you. Hearing from my new job post, the list of potential transfer list is more than we know on the outside. There's so much research I didn't know, and all the medical health over mental health as well. Yeah, we're going to get you on shortly, Alex. That will be a great show. Pedro says, Craig Hope, Northeast reporter, claims that Howe sees his immediate future working on the grass in training every day and is fully invested in his role at Newcastle. And of course, this comes from a lot of crappy rumours going around about the England job. Of course, if Southgate does fail at these Euro Championships, which, let's be honest, there is a chance of that, he won't be England's manager anymore, and the FA are seeking permission to speak to Eddie Howe. Now, this is very much just media reports, trying to put 2 and 2 together and getting 5. Eddie has stated many, many times in interviews that he is very invested in the Newcastle United project. This is where he wants to be as manager. And who are we to doubt that? Why should we think that Eddie's just saying that off the bat? He's not. We know that Eddie Howe is a hands-on manager. And I think at his stage in his career now, I think Eddie would struggle to be England's manager because he wouldn't have that day-to-day interaction that he so passionately loves doing. I think the England job is definitely a job that Eddie Howe will take in the future, but nowhere near at the moment. Not a chance. I think once PIF are in Brazil, we could have a feeder club. We need to be in the South American market. John says there are so many gems out there. Lederhosen found them, Napoli found them, Gironde found them, etc. A lot of 5 to 10 million players out there worth the risk. If we don't have money, why pay so much? Well, you know what it is? I think we have the money to get a marquee signing. Otherwise, why would we make an approach for Elise if we didn't have the money? Trafford is top quality. He was the player who got player of the tournament in the under-21s due to conceding no goals in the tournament. Yeah. Right, I just want to read a bit from the Miggy situation because obviously the headline that I read this morning was Eddie Howe considers sanctioning a tough exit. Now, we know that Eddie Howe is a very big fan of Miggy Almiron. He said it many, many times. He's played Miggy in games that maybe we didn't think Miggy should be involved in. However, he stuck with Miggy for a long time. And the report actually says that they may struggle to find a club that's going to pay us 100 grand a week wages. But Miggy is if he does have to go, would look for a 2-year deal somewhere. Now, Almiron doesn't want to leave the club, but knows that he is no longer guaranteed a place in Eddie Howe's team, something which has been made clear to him since the season finished. So, like I said earlier on, Miggy is aware of the situation. I think there was no doubt about that. And certainly Miggy will be seeing reports of Newcastle United looking at right-sided players and thinking, yeah, my time is up here. If he's got any brains about him, he'll know that anyway. Of course, going for Elise and things like that. Almiron's first choice would be to join another Premier League club in the summer, apparently, but the forward has yielded 30 goals for Newcastle. That's not a lot when you think how long he's been here. He was linked to Saudi Arabia's Pro League in January, but wasn't keen on a move to the Middle East. So the job of keeping Almiron happy is key for Newcastle Chiefs. Now, the reason they're saying that for is because they need to keep him happy in order to, get a move. If Miggy's happy with the move and Newcastle United are playing a part in that, they're not just saying to Miggy, bugger off. We're not interested in you anymore. Go and find another club. I think Newcastle, certainly under Eddie Howe and the new regime at Newcastle United, they do help players. They do help players if they have to move them on. We've seen that with Matty Longstaff, for instance, when he went to Toronto. He was out for a long, long time injured, and we helped him with that move. It says Howe would part ways with Almiron with a heavy heart after guiding the player to his best run of form in the 22-23 season when he won a flurry of personal accolades and hit double figures. But the head coach has already had to make some difficult decisions based on what he has been told by those upstairs at St James's Park. Tough financial calls resulting in the release of Paul Dummett and Matt Ritchie, a duo Howe was prepared to hand extensions to before being told otherwise. So, again, that says to me that Eddie Howe, whether it was Europe or not, he wanted to give extensions to Dummett and Ritchie, but he has been basically pressurized, shall we say, from the top. And I like that in a way because, the owners of Newcastle United turn around saying, right, we need changes at this football club. We need things to happen, and we need the old guard out. It's clear. But what the new owners do is they do listen to fans. And I'm not saying that they listen to fans when they say what needs to be done financially wise or anything like that. But they can tell the fans weren't happy with Miggy. They can tell the fans we're not happy about Dummett and Ritchie getting extensions because of the wage. We need to free up wages. We need to free up places in the squad to bring on better players. Almiron, he's 30-year-old. The reports in here in the Chronicle Live saying he's probably played his last game for Newcastle United. They think he might move back across the Atlantic. So for me, I mean, would Atlanta take him back on? Or Atlanta, sorry. Possibly. He's a big hero over there. We saw that in the US tour, didn't we? He was a big favourite over there when he still went back. Other Premier League clubs are interested in him, but Newcastle don't want to sell him to another Premier League club. There could be some changes, but for now, a move to another Premier League club is off the table. I agree with that. I think it's. I mean, listen, if Miggy went to another Premier League club, would he really be helping? Would he really be, going against us to a competitor? I doubt it. I think it would be a lower league Premier League team, if I'm openly honest. I don't think any top 8 team would take Miggy on. That might be a bit harsh, but look, I'm only going off what I've seen of Miggy in the last season, and really since he's been here, he's been very frustrating at times. And I genuinely think the time is right now. Man United can't afford to get a new manager, and never mind stump up for compensating for Dan Ashworth. Miggy is a bottom half table player. So Minte is the new flavour of the month, says Jano, based on a season in the Dutch league. Didn't Anthony and Van der Beek excel in the Dutch league? How have those elite players worked out? Jano, there's always a risk, matey. There's always a risk. But what I like about Minte is he's doing it in an international level as well. He's not. It's not just league level he's doing it at. He's doing it at international level as well. So that excites me a little bit more than it would. I understand what you mean about Anthony and Van der Beek. They just haven't worked. But they grew up in the Dutch system. Minte, I think he's a treasure. I really do think he's a treasure. Mark says, love Miggy the bits, but his time here is over. Best to leave while his stock is still high. I'll always have a soft spot for him, but he's no longer good enough for Newcastle United. We absolutely have the money for at least one big boy coming in, says Kev. Man United fans are realizing how Ratcliffe became a billionaire by not spending anything. Exactly. Do you know what? When I see the way he conducts himself, Ratcliffe, I see a lot of comparisons to Mike Ashley. And if that's the case, good luck, Manchester United. I think it's going to be hilarious. Susan says, hi, Paul, when can Toon Army play? He's back in August. I think it's the first 3 or 4 games that he misses of the new season. But the fact is, it's going to be brilliant. Absolutely fantastic to see him back. Paul, we need a right-footed centre-back. Can you think of anyone who won't cost a silly amount? Is Varane worth a punt? I don't think, to be honest, Varane would come to the club. However, what I do want to talk about this morning is a link to a centre-back. Now, this is a Bayern Munich centre-back and formerly of Juventus. Now, this guy is a massive, massive talent. He is a brilliant centre-back. And apparently, Bayern Munich have approached 3 clubs to offer them, offer them to them, which is very interesting. You don't often see that in football. But we're talking about, and this could be a big, big signing for Newcastle if we were to get him. Matthijs de Ligt. Now, de Ligt is, the report says he's been offered the opportunity to sign for Newcastle United. And Graham Bailey's been reporting this and saying that Newcastle United, alongside Liverpool and Arsenal, have been made aware that they can sign Matthijs de Ligt from Bayern Munich. Newcastle are one of a handful of clubs who have been offered de Ligt by intermediaries. They are working with de Ligt, and he is keen on a move to England. Now, for me, this would be a marquee signing. There is no doubt about that. I think the price being banded around is around 68 million quid. This would be massive. And again, this says to me that if Newcastle are in, and again, look, what I will stipulate here is we may not get him, but isn't it fantastic now to be in the conversation for these kind of players? I mean, de Ligt came through a few years ago, and everybody raved about him, and there was never any chance of Newcastle being in the mix to try and sign a player of his capabilities. Now it's very different. So whether we get him or not, again, we're in the mix. We're in the transfer mix here. De Ligt would be a very expensive signing for the club, given the fact that he moved for 68 million in 2022. So whether it's still at 68 million quid or not, we don't know. De Ligt would be a blockbuster signing for Newcastle United. If money was not a problem, then he would be a perfect signing. He has a commanding presence and already had a lot of top-level experience, despite only being 24 years old. I mean, really, alongside Botman, can you imagine that? I know Fabian Schär is still there, and he's part of it. He's still part of our makeup. There's no doubt about that. But, looking to the future, Botman and de Ligt, 2 Dutchmen, incredible. De Ligt, who was set to compete at Euro 2024 for the Netherlands, would be an outrageous defensive signing on the back of missing out on Tosun. However, whether it happens or not is a different story, because the finances could be all wrong for Newcastle. He's got a contract at Bayern Munich until 2027. So it's going to be a very costly deal. He earns more than 250 grand a week at Bayern Munich. That is more than anyone earns at Newcastle United, and is way more than what the Magpies would be willing to pay. But again, what we have to take into consideration is this. When we're looking at these elite level players, we know that eventually Newcastle's wage structure is going to be smashed out of all proportion. That is not in anybody's doubt. It's not in my doubt, and I don't think it's in any fans' doubt, and I don't think it's in any of the owners' doubts as well, that we will have to smash the wage structure at some point, okay? So when, reports come in about people talking about de Ligt and the wages, the same with Elise, the same with Nico Williams, yes, they're on a lot of money, but at the same time, we do not know what Newcastle have planned for a wage structure in the future. They will have to pay the big bucks for the big players. No doubt about it. And that's what Newcastle United will be looking at doing. So for all these people writing things off saying, the wages, the wages, the wages, at some point we are going to have to pay these wages. If we want to compete with these top teams, we are going to have to be up there. We're going to have to be up there, stay up there, and compete with the best and pay the money for the best. But, of course, we have to wait and see, of course, what happens with FFP and PSR, with the court cases going on right now. Does anything happen with that? I'm not so sure. We'll see what happens. But, look, I tend not to bother reading about the wages and things like that. And that may be a bit silly of me not to do that. But I just like the fact that we're in the conversation. It's fantastic to be up there in the conversation. Wage-wise, I've said this many, many times with different... It doesn't necessarily just have to be football that we're talking about here, guys. It can be, various other jobs that you have. Wage structures can be made up of bonuses, that can be made up of signing-ons, and a general salary. Now, if we were to go and sell the dream or sell the product to de Ligt and say, right, We know you're on 250 grand's worth of wages. Here's what we're willing to do. We're willing to, pay you a big signing on fee. We're willing to give you a very, very good wage, as well as some huge bonuses. Bonuses for winning cups, bonuses for championships and things like that. We can do that. There's nothing stopping us doing that. But at the same time, I know the new owners will be very careful regarding FFP, but things could change very soon, guys, with that. S Best, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much for signing up. Thank you for your support. Really do appreciate that. Paul, have you seen the dodgy Palace and Wolves shirt deals? I have. Interesting to see what happens there. And I see Everton have just teamed up with our old muckers Castor in a £20 million deal. That's been announced this morning. So, good luck, Everton. Actually, it's a match made in heaven, really. Claire says, we do need to move players on. The likes of Richie and Dummett, who were on 30 to 45k, that could be added to bring in a better player. Exactly. And that's my point. We're in a very different position this summer than we were last summer. We've got some of the old guard out who were on massive wages. We could be now moving Miggy Almiron on. There's rumours about Callum Wilson and Kieran Trippier being another two that we could move on as well. So their wages would come off the books as well. That would open it up. We don't know what the revenue is for Newcastle United coming through the door this summer. We know that there's a Champions League money, Adidas money, Noon money, Seller money, various other companies that we brought on board as sponsorships. There is a lot of money coming into Newcastle now that there simply wasn't even this time last year. So we as fans, anybody doesn't know what the finances are unless you're working in that department in Newcastle United. You know exactly what you've got to spend. Hi, Paul, mate. Would you put in a bid for Mohamed Kudus? Yes, if he was available. It all depends. Look, I think what's exciting me at the moment is the fact of possibly Elise or a right-sided player coming in. De Ligt, whether it happens or not, just being in the conversation for him is exciting as a fan. There's no doubt in my eyes that, being linked with De Ligt compared to a couple of years back when he was just Newcastle were non-existent in any bids or any conversations for top quality players. This is a very different environment we're living in now as Newcastle fans, and I think it's a much more exciting one. And I do believe that these players can really excel. Absolutely excel for Newcastle United if they were to sign. Goalkeeper-wise, do you know what? I think I'd be happy with James Trafford. If Trafford is the one we go for, I will support him. He's a Newcastle United. He'd be a Newcastle United player, and we have to trust that the guys at Newcastle know exactly what they're doing. Eddie knows what he's doing. The coaching staff know what they're doing, and certainly the owners know what they're doing, bringing in these quality players. Rafiat Benisian says, if we went for Matthijs de Ligt, then might indicate we are selling several players. That was my point I made before. The reports are stating that Newcastle are still possibly looking at offers for Wilson, Trippier, etc. The more time ticks on, the more I think that Trippier may be the one to leave as well. Certainly the way we're strengthening the back line up at the moment. For me, Livramento is the number one starter next season. I genuinely believe that. I think he's proved himself already that he can be capable of being that number one right back for Newcastle United. Time will tell on that, but yeah. Everton will be good for Castor. They need better representation in the Championship. De Ligt is the type of player to make this team elite. Absolutely. And, when it is time for Fabian Schär to move on, Botman and De Ligt as your two centre-backs. I mean, I know it's just a pipe dream right now, guys. It really is just a pipe dream because there would be a lot of financial stuff to work out to pull a deal like De Ligt. However, stranger things have happened in football, to be honest. Jack says, hi, Paul, mate. Would you like to see Kubo? Absolutely, 1,000,000%. I think everybody knows how much of a fan I am of Kubo and how much I'd love to see him in a black and white shirt. I know Lady Sam is a very, very big fan of Kubo as well. But listen, he's never been linked. That's it's a shame, really, because I'd love Alex to do a breakdown on Kubo just to dream. But at the moment, there's certainly no links at all. AD says, I agree, Paul. It's nice being linked. Good times ahead. Kudos is a wonderful player, but West Ham would doubtless want close to 80 million for him, I reckon. Absolutely, especially when Newcastle United come knocking. We know what happens when certainly Premiership teams see Newcastle United come knocking and think, oh, hey, let's just up the ante a little bit here with regards to financial amount. Mix's training ground, training kit sponsors being announced in July, start of the new FFP period, loads of money. Exactly. We've got so much more coming through the door than we did have. And I think that's what people need to realize. When we're talking about, just don't listen to people when they say, oh, they're expecting to get, 30 to 40 million pound is the budget this season. They don't know, because they simply don't know the amount of money that's now coming in. There was a lot of money going out even this time last year because of the deals that Mike Ashley and his cronies put together that were just not good financial options for Newcastle. There were excellent financial options for Ashley, but not for Newcastle, they weren't. And the new owners have had to deal with a lot of that and get a lot of that off the table. So, it's a very, very different environment now for Newcastle United. Huge difference. Man City will win. Seen two top finance guys laid out and Premier League chancing it, nothing more. I've got my fingers crossed. All right, that's as best as I can do. I've got my fingers crossed that something will happen. But again, and it's all about what to do. Paul, you have to pronounce delight as in shite. Delight. Okay. He's a delight. There you go. Well, thank you, Jan. I know you'll probably know better than me to be honest. Hippie says, G'day, Paul. Are you doing a live commentary on any of the Euro games? Absolutely, mate. It starts tonight. We've got live commentary of the Germany-Scotland game. So, and we're doing many, many games across the Euros. I know international football isn't really as popular as the Newcastle United shows, but, we're a football channel as well. Let's not forget that. And we do like... we all have to have our football over the summer, don't we? And the Euros is one way we can keep that going with live commentaries and stuff. So, that'll be tonight. So don't miss that. You can. The best thing about this is you can watch the game on the TV, knock the sound off, and listen to our commentary and join in with us. Best way to watch the games. Absolutely 100%. I'm heading to bed shortly to get up for the 5 a.m. kickoff, says Hippie. Oh, God. I mean, dedication. You guys in Australia and that part of the world, your dedication is incredible. We see people coming on for the morning shows in America as well who are hours behind us. It's incredible dedication. Absolutely. We got over 1,000 people watching the morning show. This is definitely a record for a live morning show. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Really do appreciate that. Do subscribe if you're new and like what you see. Hatrick, thank you very much for your super chat. We've just bought a puppy and named him Bruno. Mrs. thinks it's after Bruno Tonioli from Strictly. Little does she know it's after our one. Brilliant, brilliant. That is actually a good way of doing it, isn't it? Just say, he's named after Bruno Tonioli from Strictly Come Dancing. But really, deep down, we know Bruno's where the real name has come from. Bruno is going nowhere. No one will pay £100 million for him, says Paul. I'll be a lot easier once that is off the table, shall we say. Once that goes off the table, I will be a very, very happy man. It's look. It's squeaky bum time. None of us want to lose Bruno. If we do lose Bruno, then I'm sure everybody would rather that he didn't play in the Premier League. So whichever club comes in for him, make sure it's an overseas team. Because for me, it would kill me as a fan to see him pull on a Man City shirt or something like that. It really would. I'd hate it. I would absolutely hate it. But that is it for the morning show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just wanted to run through those two subjects with you this morning and get your thoughts on things. Very, very interesting comments in the chat. So thank you so much for that, guys. I really do appreciate it. Please do hit the thumbs up button before you leave the stream. It really does help the channel stay in those search results so that fellow fans like yourselves can find the channel and hopefully subscribe in the future, of course. If there is any breaking news this afternoon, then obviously we'll bring it to you here first, right on the Toon Review YouTube channel. But follow our socials. We've got a Facebook group. It's a fantastic Facebook group. Get yourself on there. 3,500 members now. It continues to grow. Follow us on Instagram, of course, Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, and TikTok as well. There's a brilliant TikTok account which Susan looks after with some fantastic animations and things like that. So get yourself on there if you are on TikTok. But thank you very much for tuning in this morning, guys. Thank you for your super chats and your memberships. Mods, thank you again. But thank you to you guys out there. You have been absolutely brilliant this morning. It's brilliant to get you guys in the chat and have a live conversation with you guys about the news. It really does come across really well that you guys are enjoying it as well. So thank you very, very much for tuning in. And we will see you a bit later on. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, folks. Take care.
Come back and check on some breathing.